one of the main arguments is people say that this is such a small percentage and it doesn't accurately represent all Muslims and Islam in general, and that these are the radicals. And then I was watching something that said that's actually not the case based off of polling. It's something like conservatively 20%, which is a lot because it's like the number two or number two religion in the world, number one religion in the world. So we are also acting like this group is a minority when it's absolutely not. And then if you take in that large number, even if it's just 20%, that is a lot of people with really bad, really dangerous ideas. And I don't know what the solution is. I hate like sitting here and talking about a problem and not having any idea, but I think it begins with being honest. Like I know that for sure. I'm not a politician. I don't know my way around law reformations or geopolitics. I'm just a concerned woman, and I see feminists that complain about something like, being misgendered, but then I see someone get killed because of a tiny piece of hair and they don't speak up on that. So I'm like, well, we're living in the upside down right now. And all I can do is, I guess, have a conversation with someone like you who is a lot more informed than me. And hopefully, like you said, a butterfly flaps its wings and something can happen if we all collectively do this.
Yes, absolutely. So true. And it's so meaningful. Like, I don't want you to diminish in any way the fact that you're doing this. Like, what the Iranian women are saying is be our voice. That's the statement that they keep repeating. Be our voice, be our voice, be our voice. And we have all sorts of other hashtags like let us talk. They're all around the same sort of idea of like, we're trying to tell our stories. We're trying to tell you how we feel. We're trying to tell you our experiences, our authentic voices from a woman of color. Like, isn't this what you're supposed to value?
Mhm.
And nobody wants to hear our voices. Nobody, they want to just follow this narrative that they have in their head of Islam as a religion of peace and whatever other kind of propaganda has been sold to them. They have bought it hook, line, and sinker, and they do not want to let go of this. And they do not want to see the reality in front of their face. So it is so incredibly meaningful when somebody does listen to us and somebody does hear us and somebody does share our stories and share our voices. And, the truth is, Candace, we get silenced so much from our own communities. As I just mentioned to you, like, they want to kill us. They hate, like, women are hated already in this society, in this culture, in this religion. But a woman who speaks up against the patriarchy, a woman who speaks up against the dominant mainstream Muslim thought, oh man, like they would love nothing more than to slit our throats and to have us be quiet. And so, because we're already being silenced on one end, to be silenced in the Western world, where free speech and free expression are supposed to be so meaningful here too, like it to be silenced on both ends is devastating. It's really, it's not just a betrayal of us, like, but it's a betrayal of your own Western values too. Like it's a betrayal of feminism. It's a betrayal of freedom of speech. It's a betrayal of liberty. So it is so important to allow us to share our stories and to hear us when we try to tell you our experiences. So yeah, just I guess thank you again.
Well, with that being said, so with all the protests that are happening, I saw the New York Times had an article that was saying, well, the real reason that these women are protesting and the underlying factors are because of a slipping economy. And they tried to kind of pivot it that way. So, what would that like? Is that just ignorance, or are they trying to push a certain narrative? Because I don't feel like if a woman was wearing a headscarf, and I'm in the South, right? I'm in North Carolina. I feel like if a woman is wearing a headscarf, no one is going to look twice at her. No one's going to treat her differently. Like that is such a small percent of really shitty people, at least in this country. So the fear of creating, I don't know, negative stereotype and trying to protect what is, I guess, we'll say a minority in this country or at least in this state That doesn't seem honest. That doesn't seem like that could be why they're doing it. So do you have any idea why you see, like, these huge newspapers that are like, "It's not really because of the hijab, it's not really because of, the compulsory nature of controlling women's autonomy in these countries, that's not it, it's the economy."
Yeah. So it's propaganda, right? It's always the powerful, the like, there's a lot of petrodollars and a lot of political power behind these Sharia countries, Islamic law, right? They don't want the truth to come out. Like this is what's happening in Iran right now is really bad for their business of trying to pretend that Islam is a religion of peace and that Muslim women love wearing the hijab and are happy to be wrapped up in body bags while they're still breathing. So when you see those kinds of headlines, that's them parroting the propaganda. And it's really sad, but now everybody knows it wasn't like this, just 5, 10 years ago, but now everybody knows that the media is a farce, that the media will say whatever the powerful ask them to say. And that's why social media is so helpful for us, because you don't have to rely on the headlines that give you just, whatever bullshit they want to give you, because we're sharing the videos ourselves. We
Mhm.
have our own hashtags and we're telling you the truth. Iran is an incredibly powerful country. They have like the fourth largest oil reserves on the planet. With what's happening with Russia and Ukraine right now, obviously they're, countries like America are looking for, oil countries to make deals with. And that's been a huge part of the problem. Everybody's screaming at Biden, like, why aren't you doing anything? How are you still sitting down and having conversations with these murderers? Money. That's what it comes down to. And because they're so powerful, they have they have lobbies all around the world. NIAC is a huge lobby in America. They paid into the campaigns of Biden, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib. Um, what's your vice president's name?
Ka
Harris.
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris. They've paid into all of these people's campaigns, right? They they are massive and powerful. And so when they want the media to say a certain thing, the media will say a certain thing. If they want to deflect, I mean, it's the Islamic Republic of Iran. It's a hijab, which is an Islamic religious misogynist clothing that's forced on women based on Sharia law, which is Islamic law. Like, how can you possibly say this has nothing to do with Islam? It's literally everything to do with Islam. And most Iranian people are under the age of 30, and most of them are not Muslim because it's been shoved down their throat by this theocracy their entire life. And so, of course, they hate it. And they don't want anything to do with it. In fact, there's one of the things I do is I work with this coalition called the Clarity Coalition, and we're a group of Muslims, ex-Muslims, Christians, Jews, atheists, like everybody. We all come together and we join forces as a coalition against Islamist propaganda. And I was just at a conference last week where I was sitting with an imam from France. His name is Imam Hassan Shalgoumi. He's an imam that deals with death threats all the time because he speaks out against anti Semitism. He speaks up for women's rights. They hate anything to do with Islam so much that this imam went to an Iran protest and he's trying to support the Iranians, but because he's dressed like imam, they're like an imam, right? They're like, get out of here. We don't want anything to do with you. And he's like, I support you. And they're like, get out. Like, they just want nothing to do with him because he's wearing the like imam garb, and they just hate anything to do with religion. And I was like, it's not personal, but you got to understand, like, they fucking hate your religion. And he's like, yeah, I understand. I get it. And so it's like that. It is very much against Islam. And I would encourage you to look at the social media of actual Iranian people, listen to their voices. There's so many of them. There's so many Iranian Americans, Iranian Canadians, Iranians in France, Iranians in Belgium, that are speaking up for their compatriots in Iran because, of course, they keep shutting down the internet over there. And they're telling the truth. So listen to their voices. Just forget like New York Times or whatever else, legacy media that we used to think were telling us the truth. They're not. They're telling us whatever their lobbyists want us to hear. But luckily, with social media now, we can share our own stories.